Welcome to the first episode of Enzy Unlimited. My name's Emma. I'm here with my husband, business partner and co-host Nick. And today we wanted to introduce the podcast and tell you a little bit about ourselves and what we are doing here on Enzy Unlimited. So Nick, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hello, welcome. My name is Nick and I will also be a co-host of this new podcast that we're doing called Enzy Unlimited. So a little bit of a background on me. I'm 38 years old and I have been a personal trainer and a coach since I was almost 18. So I did my personal training certificates in Brisbane, Queensland with the Australian Institute of Fitness just prior to my 18th birthday. And believe it or not, when I first did my certificates, it was actually that long ago that online certificates weren't a thing. So I had to go into the Australian Institute of Fitness Brisbane campus 2 nights a week for, I think it was just a little bit over 6 months, and do my certificates face to face. During that time, I was also playing rugby league, which is my athletic background. And then shortly after I graduated the Australian Institute of Fitness, I actually retired from rugby league and took up personal training full time. And I have done so ever since in some capacity. So spent a little bit of time PTing in Brisbane, moved back to Newcastle for a short stint and PT'd at a few gyms and private studios here in Newcastle. And then actually moved over to the USA for a good portion of my adult life, where I lived in both Northern California and Seattle, and then a little bit of time there in Portland, Oregon at the end as well. During that time, personal training was my main income and my main focus, even though technically wasn't allowed to work because of the green card situation, but being a personal trainer was able to circumnavigate that with cash in hand. And if the authorities are listening, that's not true. But yeah, so did that, came home, and through various injuries and restrictions that were put on me physically, found powerlifting while I was over there, started competing in powerlifting for a very long time. My first powerlifting competition was in 2011 in Northern California, and continued with that training with that focus on strength throughout all the way up until very, very recently, where I have succumbed to a long-term knee injury of having no ACL, which caused a lot of instability in the joint. And osteoarthritis has formed, and that's become quite bad. And heavy lifting and the restrictive nature of powerlifting and training for maximum strength was really exacerbating that issue. So took a step back from that and decided that I wanted to not give up completely, but more so pivot and transition back to more of an athletic focus on how I grew up training. And see if I could fix the issues that I was seeing with my body. And so that's been the focus of the last 12 months, and happy to say that it's been a very successful pursuit. But what that's done in the process as well has also really broadened and kind of shaped the way I look at athletic development and physical development and the different attributes that we can lean into within exercise and how we can make meaningful change very, very quickly when we understand the outcomes that we're really trying to lean into. So that's a little bit about me. I'm a husband to yourself, which is one of the greatest things and my greatest achievements in life, and I'm very proud and happy to talk about that any opportunity that I get. I'm a father as well to 2 amazing boys, and that's something that I take great pride in, and I think that being a husband and father is essentially who I am, and and a strength coach is what I do. And I think making that distinction is and has been a really nice and I guess defining moment in my life as a man, and something that's happened only fairly recently over the last 12 months also. So I am a strength coach, I am an athletic performance coach, and it's something that I love doing, but it is what I do, not who I am. And yeah, that's essentially me. Why don't we talk a little bit about the better half of the podcast, being yourself? Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about you?
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for sharing that with us. And I think what you've mentioned about not having your entire identity tied up in strength coaching is a really important transition for a lot of people within the fitness industry, because I know when I first started in the fitness industry back in 2019, my identity was quite tied up in bikini competitions, which is essentially something that led me to be quite unhappy long term. So when I first started working as a personal trainer back in 2019, I felt this immense pressure that I had to compete in, federations like WBFF and do your bikini competitions. And that was actually after I had already been suffering from a disordered eating kind of a battle with something called orthorexia, although not a medical diagnosis. For those of you that don't know, orthorexia is something that many individuals may suffer from when they are obsessed with healthy food choices or eating clean. It's a bit of a funny story, because I feel like because I had this obsession with clean eating, it originally sparked my interest in nutrition. So for those of you that don't know, I am an accredited sports nutritionist, and I am currently studying dietetics at university. I am 33 years old, so I found my passion a little bit later in life, because when I started this clean eating journey, it would have been the most ideal time to probably start my university qualifications in nutrition, and I would have learned a lot quicker about the dangers of fad diets. However, unfortunately, instead, I fell victim to influencers and social media, and I suppose was led a little bit astray for what I should be doing in terms of nutrition. And then, unfortunately, that was exacerbated when I fell into the fitness industry. Anyway, fast forward, I met you and we went through my bikini competition phase, which was a bit of a whirlwind and something that I do highly regret doing. But it's all a life lesson, and it did lead me to where I am today, to be a very, I suppose, passionate sports nutritionist and someone who is very passionate about evidence-based nutrition information. So essentially my goal is to really be the nutritionist or the coach for my clients that I wish I had back, in 2015, when I started listening to these fitness influencers or even wellness influencers in regarding what you should be eating, and really help to prevent that in athletes. So I'm really, really passionate about working with athletes and preventing something called low energy availability and relative energy deficiency in sports. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to study to become a dietitian or a sports dietitian, so I could really be, I suppose, a leading force to help protect athletes from suffering these consequences that do come from underfueling or chronic underfueling. So we started Enzy back in 2022, and that was when I made the decision to step down from personal training or fitness coaching, and just fully focus on nutrition, which I think was one of the best decisions that we made, is to have two people within our business that really specialize in what they are mostly passionate about. So for me, that was enrolling in university, studying my undergraduate degree, and really starting to study a little bit deeper on these things such as low energy availability. And I couldn't believe how many athletes are not actually aware of REDS or LEA, we like to call them for short, as it's a little bit easier on the it's a bit of a tongue twister, a long word. Oh, I've got low energy availability, relative energy deficiency in sport, and even medical professionals are not always aware of these conditions either. But it is something that athletes can really suffer from, and it can lead to a lot of long-term health consequences as well, which is why I'm so passionate about preventing this in athletes and what really, I suppose, drives a lot of my passion in sports nutrition. So that's a little bit about me and how I started in the industry, and there's been a lot of transitions along the way, but I really feel like, leading back to what you were saying before, at the start we both had our identities really tied in what we were doing, and it just made it really hard, I suppose, to really help our clients in a way that would help them rather than our biased opinions back when we very first started.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I mean, obviously I know the story, but even just for me sitting here and hearing how passionate you are about the things that you speak about with sports nutrition and LEA and REDS and fueling performance and not falling victim to, I guess, like incorrect information or getting steered down the wrong path. I can literally just feel the passion sitting across from you, and hopefully everyone that's listening can feel that as well. It's something that I never get sick of hearing you speak about, just because you are so incredibly passionate about it. And I know you make that face because sometimes I do get sick of hearing about it, but
you literally do.
But I don't get sick of how passionate you are about it. So, and I guess that's leading into to what we want Enzy Unlimited to be. So you kind of touched on what Enzy Athletics is and what our business is, and the two arms of the business, I guess, being sports nutrition and athletic development, and you and I heading up, both of those arms of the business respectively, and the focus on that being an overarching focus on performance and athletic performance and athletic development, and how that all kind of ties in together. Integrated coaching is kind of our tagline, and I think it fits really well when you think about how nutrition and how athletic development kind of and S&C weave together in this web of performance as an overarching topic. And that's kind of the vision that we have for Enzy Unlimited is bringing Enzy Athletics, I guess, to life a little bit, and giving a little bit of an insight to the listeners on what we think about and what we do on a daily basis with our athletes, and how some of the things and how some of the topics that we work with our athletes on within these respective arms of our business can be a benefit to anyone and everyone that's listening, whether they're an everyday athlete, which I guess is the fancy way of saying just someone that wants to be better at life. You're not necessarily an athlete in a specific sport. Maybe your sport is just life, and you want to eat better and train better to be better at life. Or maybe you are an athlete that competes in a specific sport, and you have a specific set of demands that you need to meet to be a high performer within that sport, and we can help with both. And I think this is a really nice way for us to explore some of those topics weekly with nice, short, concise, palatable episodes that the listeners can digest on their way to work, on their way to the gym, in between sets if you're a powerlifter and you rest for 15 minutes. But they're going to be nice and easy. They're going to explore a topic a week, and we aim to explain the topic well. We aim to give you an insight as to why it's important, and then following on from that, we really want to leave you with some low-hanging fruit or some key takeaways that you as the listener can take away from each episode and look to implement into your day right away, that will have an immediate impact on how you perform.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is, the key thing is really giving anybody who is an active individual those key takeaways to help them perform at their peak, because that's what we're all about.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining me for episode 1.
Thank you, guys.